Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of that thing we call Till Mets Do Us Part. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. It doesn't matter. We are live there too. But of course, the best way to interact with the show is live on YouTube, where your questions, your comments, your concerns, your heckles, whatever you want to bring up, even if you're just Patty in NYC saying, wow, I met Turk Wendell at a comedy club on Mets Day in early spring. You could do that. Whatever you want to add to the conversation, you certainly can. So we appreciate you all for becoming full-fledged members of the show here on Till Mets Do Us Part. And of course, that means John Saponaro out in Los Angeles, California, and my co-host Matt Ibby Ibanez holding it down back in New Jersey. Ibby, I see that you're wearing the black Mets cap. Is that a tribute to our guest this week?
Well, I mean, you know me, John. When it comes to hats, I always like to play into whatever it is that we're going to be talking about or a main topic. So I think that this hat would be fitting for today. If Keith shows up in the comments, he might not like the hat, but that's okay because I thought it was more fitting for our guest today. And, as always, it's great to be back for another episode. Excited to bring back our guest for a second go around. We had an awesome interview last time he was on. And a quick story I'll bring up because, a lot of people maybe first time listening with our guest this week. I'll never forget. We got a recording of our show because we didn't do it live last time. Mm-hmm. And the recording that was sent back to us, I don't know if you remember, was basically the ending. So once our guest dipped out on the conversation, it was just me and you. And the recording was just me saying, God damn, that was fucking awesome. Like that was so great. And it was just so funny. It was so funny, like of all things that you hear Dave who produced it or edited it, whatever, just laughing in the background for my reaction. But it was a fantastic conversation. I'm glad he's back for more, and I can't wait to see what he's been up to.
Yeah, well, you know what? Without further ado, let's get into it because I think it's been over a full season. I think we had him on before last season. So there's plenty of stuff to talk to. And we're really happy that he joined us again. The one and only Turk Wendell. Turk, how you doing, man?
Doing fine, gentlemen. Good to be back on the show. I guess I wasn't too bad if you guys invited me back.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Long overdue. We know you have a busy schedule. We would have liked to have you on sooner, but you're always doing stuff down at Mets Fantasy Camp. And of course you got your own life to lead. So we didn't want to get you on too quickly, but how was Fantasy Camp? Let's start right there.
It was great. I enjoy it. It's always a lot of laughs. You meet some new people. I had a really good draft. I had the number one pick, which always helps when you're in a situation like that. 5-0 going into the championship, and they ran into that Iranian dude. I sheet my drawers and final game. So we made some untimely walks to the bottom of their order, and our center fielder miscued a couple balls, and that's pretty much what cost us the championship.
It's funny because we were just talking about this right before we went on air. We were just catching up with Turk here a couple moments ago. And I was like, man, he is talking about this like the Mets just lost the World Series and he was pitching. Like just the competitive nature that flows through you, man. Like everybody knows how fierce of a competitor you were, pitching for the Mets in big games. But it's still there. You're retired. You're at fantasy camp. And you're like, I'm not losing. I don't care.
I don't care if we're playing checkers. I want to whoop your ass. And I think it's just in the nature of an athlete, especially someone that gets to that level. You just hate to lose. And I don't care if we were running sprints. I wanted to be first. It didn't matter what we were doing.
What if you were running sprints like, you go back to your playing days, maybe you're running sprints in the outfield, but you're running up against, somebody who's super fast, much faster than you, right? Like a Lance Johnson, it's Ricky Henderson. You know you're not going to win, but like.
You never know. You never know. Hey, so seriously, I mean, getting back to fantasy camp, we had the best team. Yeah. But bottom line is that's why you play the games. And in 2000, the Giants had the best team in the National League. But that's why you play the games. You got to play to the final out of every game because you never know what's going to happen.
Can't win it on paper.
That's totally true. And I think, unfortunately for all of us Mets fans and people who still follow the Mets, we saw that, this year, can't win it on paper. Mets, one of the best teams, if not the best team going in. And, it did not turn out the way we wanted.
I'm very disappointed. And, some guys have asked me, what do you think the problem was? And, who knows? You can't put your finger on one thing. Guys underperformed. I think Verlander getting hurt to start the season. I mean, by far the biggest letdown was poor Edwin Diaz getting hurt in the Classic. I mean, that right there was just a huge deflation for the team. And, with Verlander and Scherzer and the guys that they got, I mean, on paper, they looked great. And it's, sometimes I'm not saying the guys did that because they're, like I said, they're hell of competitors. I mean, especially Scherzer and Verlander. I mean, you kidding me? They're the best in this generation. Sometimes teams, I think, just think it's going to happen too. Just because, we got all the pieces to the puzzle, it's going to happen. And you can get all the greatest players and open the bank like Steve's done, which is an unbelievable thing he's done. I mean, I love it because he's a fan, not just, the owner of the team. But I'm not saying that they have bad chemistry because I'm not sure of anything like that. I mean, from what I see, they have great chemistry. But you can't buy a championship. The Yankees have proved that.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you, I'm so happy that you brought up Edwin Diaz, because if you remember last time you were on the show, we were heading into last season before Edwin Diaz had this excellent turnaround, second or top best season of his career. If you go back to Seattle, and you were talking about, hey, I think it's in between his ears. He's got all the great stuff in the world. I think I could fix him if I was the bullpen coach. There was a lot of what you were talking about what it takes to pitch in New York. And so let's just walk through the timeline. Edwin Diaz comes back last year and has this unbelievable, epic, monumental season as a closer. They re-sign him to the big money, and then he gets hurt. But let's just talk about what he did last year for a second, with regards to the fact that he was able to bounce back in a way that you thought he was capable of. So did you see anything different?
So he's coachable. So that conversation I had with him worked.
Did you actually talk to him?
Not in depth like that.
Okay.
No, just playing catch in the outfield. I think I was back a couple different times over the summer and for the Mets old timers game too.
Okay. So what about like watching him do it? Is there anything that you saw differently from or was it just all between the ears the whole time? Was it just he had to settle into being a New York Met rather than
probably? I mean, New York can be kind of an intimidating place to play, especially if you're a visitor. But if you're a home team player, I think can be even more intimidating because, you have to perform in front of those fans every single night. And I think I've said before, I mean, they don't want second best. They want the best. And if you're just straightforward and work your tail off and try to be the best you can every night and just say, you know what, tonight wasn't my night, I'll get them tomorrow. I think the fans respect that. But they can tell who the guys are that are dogging it and not giving their all. And they kind of, boo them right from the get-go. I mean, Munbenia was there as soon as he came out from the dugout on the on-deck circle. He was getting booed. Mel Rojas, as soon as he warmed up in the bullpen, everyone's booing, going, hey, what the hell's going on? Oh, Mel's warming up. And I was sad because they're good dudes. They're good dudes. But it's the nature of the beast, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, him getting hurt was obviously a big part of what threw this season, off balance right from the get-go. Can a closer – I mean, he was the best closer in baseball. So can a closer really change the way an entire team functions, in your opinion? Do you think the loss of
to an extent. I mean, you look at some of the teams that have an unbelievable 7, 8, 9 guy, and now it becomes a 6-inning ball game. And so when you got a guy that's lights out at the end of the game and you're saying, dude, if we get the lead going into the 8th inning, it's over. Because Edwin, he's a multi-inning guy. He's some closers are getting mad if they got to come into the 8th inning. Well, it's your job. And being a closer is simply, to my eyes, the easiest job in the bullpen. It is. Why do you laugh when I say that? But it is.
Yeah. Is it because you're always coming a clean slate most of the time, and
I'd say 99% of the time it's a clean slate, but know exactly when you're going to pitch. The game dictates if you're going to pitch or not. Right. And you don't get overworked, you don't get over abused, and you don't get what we call in baseball the dry humps, where you get up and then they say, hey, get ready for the third batter, and then the guy has a 1, 2, 3 inning. And then they say sit down, and then we'll get back up when he goes back out. So you're firing away, pumping away, getting ready, and you can't do it like half-assed. You got to be ready. So if it's the next batter, you're in there. Well, you do that 2 or 3 times in the game, and you're spent. I mean, hell, I warmed up 6 times before I got in game 1 of the World Series in extra innings.
That is insane. That is something that I don't think they would let that happen anymore. You know, I know that
they
the
keep
game
track
has changed.
of all that stuff. And my son, who's in the minor leagues with the Diamondbacks, even as starting pitchers in the minor leagues, they cannot throw more than 32 pitches in any given inning. They get taken out immediately. Doesn't matter what the situation is. They get to 32, you're gone.
Do you think that's obviously there's a lot of rules when it comes to, you know, collegiate ball, or especially in the Little League World Series we just wrapped up. Do you think that that's better for the health of pitchers, or do you think pitchers are babied too much?
I think they're babied way too much.
Okay.
Way too much. And, you know, if you're going to put a pitch limit on somebody like that, yeah, I get it if they've had an injury or they've been susceptible to some injuries in the past, but every person's different. And I mean, me, for example, I mean, I threw 9 straight games when I was with the Mets, 23, 24 innings in that span. And nowadays, there's no way in hell that's going to happen. Guys get to 2 or 3 days in a row and they need 4 days off. And it's all about mental preparation and physical preparation. And that goes right to starting pitchers. But for me, the biggest factor of all this with pitch counts and all this kind of stuff, in baseball, where did we get away from calling the strike that's in the strike zone a strike? Kneecaps to the armpits. If umpires would call the strike that's in the rule book from the armpits to the kneecaps, the game will speed up on its own. And we don't have to keep screwing with a game that's not broken, trying to fix something, like I said, that's not broken. And so if you do that, yeah, there might be more strikeouts, but guys are going to be able to pitch deeper in ball games. You're not going to have 80 pitches in the 7th or 5th, 6th inning, sometimes the 4th inning. And then they're yanking them because now starters are 80 to 100 pitch pitchers. Unless you got no hitter going, then you can throw 120. Go figure.
Right.
How's that equate into the, you know, add up into the equation?
I'll jump into the comments real quick here. Jeff Cohen just saying Turk makes total sense. He's an old school fan, so I figured he would go this way. Follows it up by saying absolutely babied too much. And then Carson saying, I think it's easy to see how big of a difference maker Diaz is when you take him out of the bullpen like we saw this year. The strikeout stuff has been non-existent in the pen this year. And it really did. It changed the dynamic in terms of overall ability. He had wipeout stuff, and it's not to take anything away from, you know, the guys like Ottavino and Robertson, who was great here and hasn't been great since he got dealt to the Marlins. But, you know, these guys are known commodities, known competitors. But, you know, it is nice to have a guy where you bring him into the game and you're like, well, this guy can strike out the side. This guy could blow people away, men on base, men not on base. Ibby, I've been kind of dominating the questions. I do want to ask one more before you jump in, just to put the Edwin Diaz thing to bed. A lot of talk about whether or not Edwin Diaz should come back and pitch this year for his own psyche, for his own want to know that his knee is healthy. I think if he's 100% healthy and cleared by doctors and he wants to throw, I think he should. Ibby thinks, and a lot of other people disagree with me, hey, if the guy's healthy, he knows he could throw in the bullpen. Nobody needs to see him. We don't need him out there. Bring him back next year.
There's more to the equation than that. I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, I don't know, but when guys sign multi-year deals, unless you're the Nationals with Steven Strasburg, the team takes an insurance policy out on you. So if he throws one pitch in a game, the team has to pay his entire contract. Now, I did hear that something along the lines of the Classic, if guys get hurt, there's some sort of compensation there. But take that outside of the equation. Yeah, if he's 100% healthy and he gets cleared by doctors, I can see that maybe for his own psyche, but it wasn't like he did something on the field during a game that would affect him. You know, say a guy got hit in the head with a pitch and, you know, let me face some at-bats before the season's over so my head's right going in the offseason. I get that. But the last thing we want to do is take 2 steps backwards. You know, hey, he pushed it a little bit too much just so he could throw in September. Why? It'd be different if they were right in the thick of things and had a chance. I don't know. The Mets mathematically out of it yet. I haven't looked at that.
They're not. They're 7.5 games out. I mean, they're out of it, but
they're out of it. But
there's a lot of things that have to align for that to happen. But no, I mean, for argument's sake, it'd be great to know that he's going to be fine. But there's no doubt in my mind he'll be fine once he's 100%.
Turk is the only person who's ever pitched out of the bullpen that has been able to weigh in on this on our show. A lot of other guests have said stuff. People in the comments taking me to task. Are you surprised that he agrees with you? I'm the only one. I'm the only one who says let him pitch.
Well, I can go either way, like I said.
Yeah. No, but I'm not shocked that he chose the proper side of the conversation. That's okay. No, it's it's like I said, like to just echo what Turk just said. Like I felt the same exact way in what I was saying Turk prior as well, and that was, I feel like you can mimic a lot of things in the pen. I feel like to your point, it wasn't as if he got a comeback or hit to the face. Anything like this was something that happened after the fact. It was jumping up and down, or he got jumped on or whatever, and then the pressure comes down the leg. If everything checks out and he's proper and everything's okay, and he's checking off all these boxes, that's all well and good. But like I said, and to Turk's point just now, I don't need to see the guy come out there trying, because we all know what's going to happen. You're going to go out there. It could be a home crowd. And I always joke, I kept on saying the Marlins on September 23rd, but they're actually facing the Phillies on September 23rd. So I don't need him going out there trying to throw 110 miles an hour. And God forbid something happens. I know eventually he has to get back on the mound. We all know that has to happen. Then you just pray everything is okay. But I would much rather take that risk, if you will, of him coming back, get your work in the spring, work your way through spring training and everything, come back, pitch on opening day of 2024 if it calls for it, and then go from there. Like I said, it would have been something if this team was really in the thick of it, and it's like, oh my God, like earlier on where we all had this imaginary thought in our head when we first saw him riding the bike, and it's like, oh my God, could you imagine if the Mets somehow get back into it and Edwin Diaz and the trumpets hit and it's October baseball and he's back? Like, that's one thing. That's not where this team is. This team is far from that. I say let it go, keep working, get yourself healthy, and be ready for the spring, and we'll go from there.
Carlos Ortiz saying Diaz should pitch if and only if they find a way to make a bid for the wild card. Turk, how much can you, not just as a relief pitcher coming in from the bullpen, but just as a Major League Baseball pitcher, how much, if you have an injury to your lower body like he did, freak accident, not on the field, nothing that has to do with really the art of pitching, how much in your shoes, in your opinion, can you know that you're back to 100% just throwing side sessions, just throwing, out in the bullpen? Like, how much can you work yourself back where you go, I'm good, I'm healthy?
You can say that all you want, but when you stand on the mound and there's a batter and it's a real game, there's an extra level of adrenaline that kicks in. And I can speak from my own personal experience. I had a flexor tendon tear in my elbow. It was tore off the bone, and I could play catch all I wanted. I could throw batting practice, but as soon as I got in that really intense situation, I felt the same pain again. Yeah. And, you can't mimic that, but, getting back to Edwin, like I said, when you have an injury, sometimes you compensate for one thing, and God forbid he feels fine. But, if you hurt your knee and you don't get help or get it fixed within a certain amount of time, if you hurt your right knee, well, before you know it, your left knee hurts because you're overworking your left knee, compensating for your right knee. And one thing that happens to a lot of players is when there's leg injuries or whatnot, they alter maybe their throwing, compensating for that injury, and end up hurting their arm. So if they're worried about him, or have them go throw an instructional league or something. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it would be great that if they can somehow get back into this thing. But, Robertson did an unbelievable job. It was sad to see him get traded. But Ottavino, everyone dogs him for some reason. He's a great pitcher. He's got an unbelievable career. His ERA is 3.18. Come on. That's not bad. That's pretty damn good. Yeah. And I was talking to him at a function at the ballpark this summer. Dude, he's a big dude. Yeah, I said it to him. I looked up. I go, damn, you're a big dude. I didn't realize you're as big as you are. He's like 6'5", 240.
He's the kind of guy, Turk. He lives by the slider, dies by the slider, right? When he throws it and it's wipe out, it is unhittable. And sometimes he doesn't have the release point, it seems, and it's a lot of walks. And you could speak to that, right? Like, it's just what it's like to not have feel for that pitch.
Yep. And that's what, that's
Yeah.
what I say. Live by the sword, die by the sword. I can't sit there and say game's on the line and this guy has slider bat speed. That's what all the scouts and reports say. But so now the game's on the line and I'm going to go in there and get beat by my second best pitch.
Yeah.
He's still going to make an out 7 out of 10 times, no matter how good he is. Right.
Right.
So, hey, you know what? You got me today. Hats off to you. I'm going to get your ass tomorrow.
Yeah. I was just going to throw one piece on Ottavito's. Like, it's hard to really hate on the guy too much because as a Met, he's been here for what, 3 years now? Is it going on 3 years?
Yeah, he's got another year too.
So, and he's definitely gonna stay. I don't think he's gonna. He loves New York, but the guy's pitching as a Met to a 2.56 ERA as a Met in his time here. Like, you can't hate on that for a guy coming out of the pen.
Everyone, but that's the thing. They only remember what have you done for me lately.
Exactly.
I've got a good question coming in here, Turk, from the comments. Shay saying, everyone's been trying to find a scapegoat for the season going wrong, which makes sense, but wanted to get your opinion on Jeremy Hefner as a pitching coach, if you had one, and if you so choose to offer one. That's entirely up to you.
It's a great question, Shay.
I really don't have one. I only got to meet Jeremy and talk to him briefly this summer, but as a whole, I don't know him as a person. I surely don't know him as a coach. He seems very engaged with the players and knowledgeable on what he's doing. Obviously, he's in the position he's in. But like I said before, sometimes, it just doesn't pan out the way you want it to. Some guys underperform. Some guys get hurt and they're trying to come back too soon and things nag. But, like I said before too, on paper, everything looked great. But you got a guy like Scherzer and Verlander that, let's be honest, they're great pitchers. They're Hall of Famers, first ballot, no doubt. But they are old. Yeah. And that's a gamble. That's a gamble you're going to take. And that's the one thing that I don't understand about a lot of contracts in the game. Why don't they give these players that are that good bigger, salaries earlier on? So then later on, when they're not as good, which obviously history, is a factor because your age, you're not going to be as good as when you were 32 years old. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. So if they give them less money on the back end, it'd be easier for them to, say, hey, you know what, we're going to let you go or whatever.
I appreciate, I didn't want to put you on the spot with that question, but I did think it was a fair question. But I appreciate as a follow-up the fact that you're like, look, I don't know him, so I don't have much of an opinion, because I think one of the things we're seeing in the Mets media landscape right now is a lot of people are making a lot of assumptions about the Mets clubhouse and whether or not guys are good, whether or not guys are bad, if this person's a good influence, bad influence. As somebody who lived it and was in the clubhouse, you have to be kind of, I don't know, take a bit of offense to when somebody who's outside of that clubhouse every day, even if it's a former player like yourself, speaks to what that clubhouse is like, right? It's a little unfair if you're not in the room.
Well, opinions are like assholes. We all got one, and they all spit it, right? And unless you're actually in that clubhouse, you have no clue what goes on in there.
Yeah,
you don't. Yeah. And I don't know how much the media is allowed in the clubhouses anymore. I don't know. I know they do some press conferences outside, which I've always been a fan of because, there's always women walking around the clubhouse that, we some of them meat gazers because they just stand there in one spot and, it's just the way it was, right? Yeah. And it, makes you feel a little uncomfortable. You don't know who these people are or what they're doing there. And, I couldn't walk around in the freaking girls' U.S. soccer team's locker room. Yeah. So why is it okay for women to walk around in the men's locker room? But anyway, I forgot the hell I was talking about.
Just
the chemistry or the camaraderie in the clubhouse. Yeah. Unless you're actually sitting there witnessing, certain guys and stuff. But, baseball is such a neat sport because it's a team game, but it's such an individual game too. Everyone just stay in your lane, do your part, and, teamwork makes the dream work.
Patty in NYC saying that Turk should be coaching or managing. And I know you said something, kind of
I would love to. And I've actually entertained the idea of talking. I don't know who I would talk to with the Mets to be like a roving bullpen instructor to groom these guys on the ins and outs, mentally, physically. There's so much of the game that's mental that people don't understand. I think Yogi said it best when he said something like, 50% of the game's physical and the other 90% is mental or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, unless you've lived it, it's hard to really do it and translate it. And, my son's in the minor leagues, like I just said, with the Diamondbacks, and he's had his ups and downs this year. He could obviously pitch a heck of a lot better, but he's pitching for a team that's dead last, absolutely terrible team. And it's a lot of, the mental side of the game and battling through that kind of stuff. And I told him, I said, the good thing is I know exactly what you're going through. The bad thing is I know exactly what you're going through. And I can't do anything to help him. That's just really, other than just, try to explain to him and be there for him with the things, just dealing with the ups and downs of the game. I mean, he struggled the other night. He walked 4 guys in 1 inning, gave up a hit, and they reached his 32 pitches. So they took him out in the first inning, got 2 outs. Yeah. And he's like, Dad, I'm really sorry I embarrassed our family. And I'm like, dude, give me a break. You didn't embarrass. How many people would love to be you right now? Just to even pitch one game as a professional. I said, your grandparents drove 23 hours to watch me pitch in Double-A, and I didn't get out of the first inning either. Yeah.
Right.
and I bet I threw more than 32 pitches.
Yeah.
But, just to help them through that mental side of the game, I try to tell a lot of the younger kids, because I coached all the way up through, we got through high school, and even as college coach wanted me to help out in college, but I said, it's you got to cut the cord sometime. But I always tell the kids, you're never going to be as good as you think you are, but you're never as bad as you think you are either. Just remember all the things you've done that has gotten you to this stage. And it's all about attitude and effort, your outlook on things. And I said, especially in August, the dog days, I said, there's a lot of kids that are ready to check out and go home, especially if they're not having a good year. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is the time where your true character will show. And no matter what happens, the ups and downs of the game, you knew that going into it. There's going to be lots of ups and downs, because I've explained that to them for many years. But I said, you got to just keep the fire under you, keep it going, whether it's something you do, a smell, a memory, something when you're at the ballpark that you loved to do when you were a little kid. And it just keeps that fire going. And I know I'm rambling about it, but it's just such an important part of the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree. Sorry, Abby. Keith saying, Turk is a roving bullpen advisor. I'm going to have to make a call. And then Carlos Ortiz saying, maybe the new operations of president of baseball operations for the Mets will hire Turk. It's on the table. Lots of changes over there in Mets land.
The thing I just wanted to echo and just, follow up with everything that Turk just said was, I'm glad that I'm not insane, because as I coach at the middle school level, so I'm teaching kids that are, 12, 13, 14 years old, about to go into high school, things like that. And hearing you speak on the importance of confidence and believing in yourself and the mental side of the game, it makes me feel good, because I focus so much on that for these kids. Because when I look back on myself, I never got as far, beyond, high school and then into college. I never got very far within the game. But, what's crazy is when I look back on it, the confidence that I had in high school was very small in comparison to the confidence I had when I started playing. I was still playing fast pitch, regular baseball, I should say, in my late 20s and into my 30s. And the difference in player, mainly because of confidence and the mental side that you're talking about, it's absolutely insane. And I can say with confidence that as a player, and I took this into my coaching as well for these kids, it's like I look back at it and I go, I was a much better player at the age of 26, just picking the bat back up and starting to play again, better than I was when I was 18 or 17, 18 years old. And I say that the big part was the confidence and the mental side, just understanding that you can't always beat yourself up.
No.
Baseball is hard.
Baseball is a game of failure.
Hard.
It's a game of failure.
7 times out of 10, you fail and you're a Hall of Famer. It's a hard game. And these kids think that they're going to get, and hey, look, that goes in with a lot of the coaching they get elsewhere too, for people that they pay for. That's a whole nother story. But thinking that you're going to get, 4 hits every single game, thinking that every single time you hit the mound, you're going to strike out 10 people. It's not always going to be like that. And then when it does go south, you have to have a coach there or someone that was willing to let you know, hey, bad days happen at the office. It's not a big deal. We'll work through this and we'll get, don't kill yourself on this. There's no point in beating yourself
what I
so
say.
much.
I tell younger kids, hey, no one's going to die because you struck out. It's a game. And as long as you try as hard as you can, that's all that's going to happen. I would take the younger kids that were really good, pull them aside, and I said, hey, you know what I want to see happen this year? I want to see it fail. They look at me, what? Why would you say that? I go, because every time you make an out, you look like somebody just shot your dog.
Right.
Dude, I want to see how you act. You show a person shows their true character in bad times, not the good times.
Yes.
In the bad times, you show your true character. And I said, you need to learn how to deal with the failure. And, even coaching my son when he was 13, one of the better pitchers on his team, it seemed like every time he got in trouble, coach took him out. And I had the reins for the team to be the only coach because the head coach had to work. And he got into a jam, and he walked like 2 or 3 guys, and I went out to the mound. He went to hand me the ball. I go, I ain't taking that thing. That's your game, buddy. You need to figure out how to get out of this shit. It's going to make you a better pitcher.
Yeah.
And talking about young pitchers and babying them too. Dusty Baker took a lot of heat for saying everyone said he ruined Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor. But Dusty's an old school pitcher or old school player, and he's tradition. And starting pitchers need to understand. That's what I love about Scherzer and Verlander. Today's my day to pitch. No one else is pitching today. This is my game. They mentally, you can tell I'm going the distance. That's their thought process. And in today's game, let's be honest, the most important part of the pitching staff is the bullpen. Because, you get 5-6 innings out of a guy anymore.
Because the babying aspect really comes down to, it's the money that's involved. When you have these pitchers making X amount of money, they want to protect these investments. So it's like, but it always brings back to the question. I'm pretty sure I probably asked this last time you were on too, but it's like, I don't understand where the game changed. I guess it probably is the money as the answer, but where the game changed, where it's like, you look back across the history of the game and you're noticing as pitchers started throwing less and less, the injuries started going higher and higher. Whereas when guys were throwing X amount of innings, 200 plus innings, and these guys, they were fine. There was no issue with their arms. There wasn't an epidemic when it comes to Tommy Johns and things like that and all these types of injuries. Now, I don't know if that comes down to the weightlifting aspect or what's going on.
I think it comes down to a lot of that stuff. And kids throwing way too much all year round.
It's become a year-round sport.
You don't see anybody run anymore. Hell, they don't even shag for batting practice. To me, that was the thing I hated the most, the one thing I missed the most. But you ran around, you had a lot of fun, and you shagged balls, and that's your team camaraderie and stuff. And now, look how the game has changed. Now you have freaking sleep beds in the clubhouse. What?
Yeah.
Sleep beds? Come on. And over managing stuff. God forbid the guy goes through the batting order 3 times in a game. That cost Tampa Bay the World Series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hands down, I put my life on that.
Yeah, no feel for the game at all.
I don't care
for that game right there.
Yeah,
I don't care if the guy's the 5th starter in your rotation. He's in the big leagues. He's a big league pitcher. If he had a no-hitter going, you would have kept his ass out there.
Yeah.
But I texted my buddy as soon as they took out Snell in that 6th inning or 7th inning, whatever it was, because he gave up his 2nd hit. I said, "Game over. Dodgers win." What do you mean? I go, "Just watch."
Yeah.
But
I think everyone was saying that. Yeah. It's like,
and it just frustrates me watching some of these, and I think a lot of it boils down to just the fact that players don't run. They think it's all weightlifting stuff. Guys throw harder than they ever have in the history of the game. Mm-hmm. Everybody throws. If you come out of the bullpen, you're not throwing 96 to 100. You're a wussy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably not even on the team at this point.
Well, but here's the ironic thing. Look at the stats. There's more breaking balls being thrown now than there ever has been.
Yeah.
Guys can hit the fastball.
Yeah.
You throw a little wrinkle in it, different story.
Yeah.
Talk to a lot of Latin guys. They swing at a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell you flat out, you don't walk off the islands.
Yeah.
You hit.
Yeah.
So, that they're not that selective. We used to laugh some guys. You could throw the rosin bag up there.
Do you think with that being said, like the way that there's so much about spin rate and breaking balls being thrown, do you think that eventually it will not that velocity is going to be de-emphasized, but there might be a little bit more of a swing because people can get outs throwing 92 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour. You still can.
Keyword in your sentence right there. Throw. Guys don't know how to pitch anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just throw. And I'm telling you, they would learn how to pitch if they call the strike zone that's in the rule book.
Yeah.
To me, that is the absolute bottom line. Now, you said how the game's changed. Money's changed the game. Now, here you go. We have a no-holds-barred meeting when I was at the Phillies. Larry Bow is our manager. Joe Kerrigan's our pitching coach. And it's just basically clear the air. And we're in Montreal. And he says, anybody got anything to say? And I said, yeah, I got something to say. I said, it didn't make any sense to me last night. We have an 9-2 lead or 9-1 lead. Kevin Millwood's our ace pitcher. He's got 82 or 83 pitches after 7 innings. And you took him out. And you brought me and Real Cormier in for the 3rd and 4th days in a row to pitch. And I don't understand that. He's our ace. He should go the whole game if he can. No, he didn't really like that, but anyway. but you look at, like you said, the game, the way the money aspects change the game. Well, why do I want to keep this guy in there when I'm paying that closer or the setup guy $7 million and the closer $15 million? I mean, I get it. That's their job. But if the starter is doing his job, you let him go. And the only one rule of thumb is you don't let your starter, you don't leave him in to lose the game.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the big difference. I think as somebody who's watched baseball my whole life, the emphasis, yeah, it's great. I want the closers should make as much money as they need to make. It's all good. Give everybody money. Everybody should be making a great living. No beef there. But you should not let that dictate the way that you're managing a game. And it does. And it does.
Because no one wants to have egg on their face. And look at it now. Every team that's not doing good and they're scuffling, everybody wants to point the finger at why. This guy needs to go. That guy needs to go. This guy sucks or whatever. This guy's underperforming. Well, I mean, you're going to have that in anything. And look at how many guys, until the shift just got kicked out of the game, how many guys hover around 200 batting average. Yeah. The average big leaguer hits like 240 now.
Yeah. It's gross.
It's insane.
Look at Schwarber.
Yeah. Got negative WAR with 40 homers.
188 with 38 homers or 40 homers now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. We're gonna take a quick break. It's just 10 seconds, by the way, Turk and everybody watching. We have an ad spot we have to put in for the audio version of the show, and then we'll be right back with Turk Wendell and more. We got plenty of stuff to talk about, and yes, we're not ignoring your questions. There's a couple really good ones for Turk.
We see 'em.
We will get to them in a second. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibanez, our guest this week, the one and only Turk Wendell. Will be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibanez, and I think Turk Wendell's office or living room, it's hard to tell. He'll be back in a second.
He'll be back.
I had a chicken really going crazy. I thought there's a fox out there getting it. I was going to have to get my 22 out and whack him.
I was hoping there would be a vintage Turk Wendell moment coming out of that. There really was. I just love it. He's like, 1 second.
I'm surprised you guys couldn't hear this chicken going crazy outside the door.
I can hear a little bit of it, but nothing. It doesn't. Yeah. I didn't know it was a chicken, but you hear like a little bit of a sound going on in the background. But it is Till Mets Do Us Part. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter. Of course, YouTube is the best way to interact with the show. Your questions, your comments, your reminders, like, hey, click the like button if you're watching it. All that stuff coming in real time. And of course, if you can't watch it live, it's all good. You could watch it as soon as we're done in its entirety over on our YouTube channel, which is appropriately called Till Mets Do Us Part. Or you can wait till tomorrow and you can listen to the audio version of this show wherever it is you get your podcast, all courtesy of the Premier Podcast Network. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibanez, talking to our guest this week, Turk Wendell, who's returning for the second time on the show. And we love having him here. Turk, thank you so much again for doing it.
Thank you so much.
There's a great question coming in from Douglas Barnes, and you kind of touched on it a couple times. I don't think.
No comment on Douglas Bond.
Says, how do you feel about the new rule changes? So it doesn't seem like you like them too much.
No, I don't know if it's the same Douglas Bond that I went to college with. I thought it was going to be a fun.
No.
Obviously, it's not. It's not the Douglas Bond that I'm friends with.
No. Just so, how do you feel about the new rule changes? You've kind of touched on it. Doesn't seem like you like them too much. Is there any that you do like, or any part of it that you do like, or anything like that?
I don't think there's any one of them that I like. I really don't. And like I said before, why are you trying to fix a game that's not broken? All they want to do is create more offense. I mean, create more stolen bases, draft guys that are faster.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Not hard to figure that one out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the advantage? Make the bases bigger? I don't know of anybody that slid into a base because it was too small and got hurt. Yeah. Pitch clock. Well, tell the pitcher to get his ass in gear. Tell the batter to get his ass in the batter's box and quit messing around. How hard is that? In the minor leagues, they have a deal where they can challenge a strike call. And they just tap their helmet, and it's really quick. And they show it on the scoreboard. The catcher can challenge it, and they get 3 challenges a game. I kind of like that because they get the call right, and it's instantaneously. I hate the freaking replay where they hold on a second, let me check the the video guy, and they're going like this. And it should be instant. You want to replay it? Nail it right now. Replay it. They shouldn't have 10 other guys looking at a video if they can replay it or not. The shift. Learn to beat the shift. Learn to bunt. Here's something that when I was little and when I got to the big leagues, you saw it in every single ballpark, behind home plate, by the dugouts, on the wall. You know what it was? A sign. It said no pepper. Guys don't even know what pepper is anymore. Dude, if you learn to play pepper, I promise you, you could beat the shift. Slap a little double down the line. Here, shift me again. But it just seems like some guys are too, I don't know, I don't want to say they're egotistical, but they just think they can beat the shift. And I'm going to hit a home run or I'm going to beat the shift. Why not just slap the ball or bunt the ball the other way and set the table for the guy behind you? And what are some of the other weird things they've done too? Oh, I'm only allowed to face 3 pitchers and 3 batters, or I'm a reliever. Why we keep tampering with stuff? It's a Stratomagic baseball game. Got rid of the DH. There's no strategy anymore. Now you got to face 9 boppers. That was the beautiful thing about the National League. I used to call the American League the beer league because it was all about hitting home runs. And now what do you got? Hitting home runs or striking out?
Well, there's one thing that you said there about challenging the strikes in the minor leagues. So, obviously they're toying around with this potential robo strike zone, and it's going to tell the umpire. Now, that seems to go along with what you were saying earlier about calling a true, legitimate strike zone.
Are they going to make it the strike zone that's in the rule book with robo umpires? I doubt it.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
But if they did, it seems like you'd be more for that.
You'd be for that.
Well, I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, they said they're going to have something. There's still going to be an ump back there.
Yeah.
Because there's no way in hell they're going to get rid of a job.
No.
Right.
So he's just going to have a buzzer.
Pretty much. And if it's a strike, that umpire's got to call the strike. Basically, like something's going to buzz if it's a strike and it won't buzz if it's a ball or something like that.
It's passed me up as far as that crap goes.
You know what? Fair enough. Look, this is another good question from Jeff Cohen. Pete Alonso leads the league in hit by pitches. Seems like he gets hit all the time. Got hit in the hand, got hurt. He got hit a couple times in Atlanta, got cheered by the opposing crowd, which is just a dog shit thing to do. But anyway, are pitchers afraid to protect their teammates in today's baseball? How many times does Alonso have to get hit before one of the Mets pitchers responds? You think that's a Mets thing? You think it's a modern baseball thing? You think it's a courtesy thing? I mean, obviously, you listen to Keith Hernandez on the broadcast. The game is softer, right? There's no takeout slide. You can't hit the catcher anymore. All that stuff has been legislated out of the game, but this seems like another one where you can't really do anything. People don't.
Hard to pitch inside, and if you don't drill someone to protect your teammates, you lose some respect by your teammates. That's part of the game. It's just the way the game is. I mean, baseball players police themselves, and they do it. And, honestly, it might be, as you well saw as Met fans, it might be a year later. It might be 3 or 4 years later. It might be 5 years later. Sean Estes had no clue.
Yeah.
The Roger Clemens deal, but he still threw at him and unfortunately missed him.
Yeah.
Right.
But, some things, they don't die. They just get postponed for a little while.
Would you do it regardless? Like, let's say you had a manager who's like, hey, look, our policy is we don't throw at guys, or we're not going to throw in certain situations. Would you take it upon yourself?
Absolutely.
It slipped on that one. I lost it.
Freaking my bad. But I mean, the other side of the coin is I don't understand. Guys get pissed if you pitch inside. Well, what? So you can swing as hard as you want, and you can pimp a home run, but I can't pitch inside or stare you down if I strike you out and like say, sit down, bitch.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I mean, guys, the showboating it's a one-way street.
Yeah.
And guys get mad if the pitcher has some kind of emotion. And I get it, you know, in big situations. But when you're up, you know, 10-0, you swing 3-0, hit a bomb, you're getting drilled the next time up. I'm sorry. I might even drill the next batter.
Yeah. I mean,
and, you know,
to me,
all these guys wear all this gear now too.
Yeah.
Get rid of that shit. Make them man up and just go in there with just what they got, their uniform.
Oh man.
You were gonna say something, maybe?
I gotta try to find it because I'm laughing at. I'm still laughing at the fact you said lose that shit.
Lose that shit. Lose all of it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll find
it all started with what Bonds and Biggio started gearing up with all that armor and stuff. And if you want to wear it, dude, wear it the whole game.
Yeah,
guys get undressed every time they walk or get on base.
Yeah,
and no, I don't get it. I got a base hit and I want to go to all the guys in the dugout. Dude, you're 35 years old. Act like it. I don't understand all that stuff.
This is a good point from Keith. He says, I love the batters who crowd the plate, and then when a pitcher puts them on their ass, they get mad. That's the other part of it, right?
Best? There's two guys that I loved watching play the game when they got hit by a pitch. Chase Utley and Anthony Rizzo. Both of them crowd the plate. They got hit, put their head down, and went to first base. And they didn't wear all this gear.
It's true. I don't think either one of them wears anything. Maybe at the end of his career, Utley wore the one above your ankle, like the little shin guard one.
Yeah, but that's not going to matter.
No, that's more for your own, like for protecting you from yourself. That's on foul tips down onto your foot.
That hurts.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I'm afraid he's going to hit me in the ankle.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you this. You know, obviously the Mets have this stud catcher now in Alvarez, and he's got, 30 home run potential. Hell, he might even hit 30 this year, the pace that he's on. And you played with Mike Piazza, and, the best home run hitting catcher, certainly, if not the best hitting catcher of all time. Obviously, people say Johnny Bench, and that's with all due respect, of course. But it really does change the game. That's the one thing that has been a constant. If you have a catcher that can hit and hit for power, it changes an entire lineup. So when you go back to, having Piazza in there in the center of your lineup, where a lot of other teams have a catcher that's going to hit 198, it really does change what you can do confidently as a baseball team. And of course, the flip side of it is catchers don't play every day. And so sometimes if the catcher is the linchpin of your lineup and he's going to be your cleanup hitter, well, on a day where he doesn't play, your lineup might drop off drastically. So just your thoughts on Alvarez and your thoughts on the catcher that can hit 30 bombs in a year.
Well, I think he's a good young player. Let's see how he handles, multi-years and back-to-back, the wear and tear, that kind of stuff. And like we talked about just a little bit ago, he's played an era now where the strike zone's smaller.
Right.
Johnny Bench played an era when the strike zone was the strike zone. Yeah. And he didn't get to wear all this body armor. Guys could pitch inside, and they did pitch inside. I guarantee you, if you talk to 30 guys that played in the 70s, they would say, I would knock just about every guy in the lineup on his ass the way they swing. They swing so hard they fall in the opposite batter's box. They do. Or it's just crazy. Guys like that, hell, if you swung hard one time, you're getting freaking buzzed the next time up to bat.
Yeah.
Or showboated at something like that.
I'm just picturing Bob Gibson right now.
Yeah, but
I
think Alvarez is a great young stud player. But let's see what he does longevity wise. And hopefully he has an unbelievable career.
Keith Blacknick saying, next season I hear players can armor up like RoboCop. Just picture somebody coming to the plate up with a full suit of medieval
No, but
armor.
That's what it's going to come to. They're freaking knight in shining armor at the plate. Right? I mean, if I've said, you want to wear all that stuff, wear it underneath wear arm guard and all that stuff underneath your thing. A guy just hits a double with all of it on, but now he's got to take it off. You can't run another 180 feet.
Yeah. Mark Hanna, when he was on the Mets earlier this season before they traded him, I noticed he was the only person I've ever seen. I don't know if this was for comfort or for ease or accidental, but there were a few times he was playing left field with that little shin guard on his leg, and he would wear it under his pants. So I don't know if
soccer people wear the pads underneath their socks. I think Pete Alonso wears some armor underneath his long sleeve shirts.
Yeah, he does.
So
Oh,
why don't you?
this is a great one from Douglas Barnes. He
Who's the
says,
best
who do you
old
think
school?
is the best old school player in the game right now? I know that's a
Hmm.
loaded question because there's a lot of players, but if there's a guy even that you could say, hey, you know what? If he was playing in my era, I would hate to play against them, or I'd love to have him as a teammate.
That was the best compliment I ever got, too. I love when guys told me that. I fucking hated playing against you. I would think, a Scherzer stands out to me, a Kershaw, pesky little freaking Altuve.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to mention him because he's part of the whole cheating scandal, but I mean, the dude's legit.
Right.
He's at 5 home runs in the last 2 days.
We had 4 last night, I think. One every at bat.
Yeah. I don't know if they got their signals figured out now. I'm just trying to think of all the older school. There's not too many guys that are still playing the game when I played, but I mean,
I'll use this as a jumping off point because it's always a topic that's brought up. Do you think that the way that Jeff McNeil plays, does that fit more of that old school type? Is it too much? Is he too pissy sometimes? Is it over the top? Is it like an act? Or like, how do you think when it comes to the way Jeff McNeil plays the game, does that feel more old school? Does that seem out of place in today's game?
Absolutely feels old school, and I love it. And McNeil's a great dude. He's a great hitter. I think, getting back to maybe putting your finger on, some things that went wrong for the Mets this year. I mean, McNeil had a career year last year, winning the batting title and getting a big contract. So maybe he pressed a little bit to pick up the slacks when other guys were struggling. And, he's still having a respectable season. Don't get me wrong.
Average is coming back up. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a great hitter. And he is the epitome of pushing himself to the limits every single time he steps on the field and giving it everything he has.
You don't mind when he slams the helmet down and throws the bat. He seems to chirp at the umpires a lot and stuff when things don't.
Well, I mean, that's just getting fired up in the heat of the moment, which is fine. But when you're throwing your shit and if you hit somebody, well, you better get ready to get smacked in the face. Yeah.
We had Glendon Rush on the show a couple times.
Oh, G Money. He actually came out and visited me this summer.
Did he really?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Came out for 3 days, bought a puppy out here.
I love that. He told this great story about you, about how you were like you were an avid watch collector back when you played, and you like something about you had a box of watches with like money. And you had to because it's something like you guys were out on the road, and it was like he's like, back in the day, like you just didn't have access to money, and Turk's like, I'll cash your check.
Yeah, I did that a few times. I walk around with about 50 grand in cash all the time.
That's not
my little slush fund.
Yeah.
But my thing too was I would give rookies a new watch.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
He left that out,
Yeah, he didn't say
he wasn't a rookie when he came over, so he didn't get one.
That's true. So you would give rookies on whichever team you were playing on, you'd give them a new watch.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Did they have
most
to make
of the time it was the starting? It was pitchers mostly, but
Yeah.
but I would for a lot of the rookies, I would go up to him before the game and I'd say, if he was a pitcher, I'd say before you get on the mound, do yourself a favor. If the batter, I said before you get in the box, do yourself a favor. Take a moment and just look around and just really suck in that moment and capture it because you'll never, ever get it back. I wish I would have done that, and I didn't. But I would also I would get the box score out of the newspaper, and I would make a little artsy-fartsy looking thing with the box score in there to caption, and frame it for them for their opening day or major league debut.
Yeah,
so to speak.
That's really nice, man.
I'm on a dick all the time.
Speaking of, Jeff Cohen wants to know if you're still making fools of fantasy campers at poker.
Oh, that was so funny. It's funny talking about fantasy camp because I was just going to actually bring that up because I talk so much shit at fantasy camp. I'm screaming at all the players like, I can't believe you freaking paid to do this. That's terrible. You should get a refund. Just especially if they're on the other team.
Yeah.
Well, the more so, I don't really brag on my own guys, but if I'm in the third base coaching third and, pitchers, like the one guy, George Wanaka was pitching the other day, and I was ragging him so bad in the first inning, he couldn't throw a strike, he walked the bases loaded, and then they took him out. But I always, I'm so far in your head, you don't know if it's me or you in there.
Yeah.
And so, but moral of the story is, guys are always going, man, how much shit did you talk when you played? And I said, I didn't talk any shit. I just went out there and did my job. I mean, there's only a few times I could think of that I actually yelled or talked shit.
Oh, we lost him for a second.
Oh, we lost him. He'll be back.
Oh no. Yeah, he'll be back. I think.
I hope.
I wanted to hear the story about when he yelled and talked.
I want to hear the finish of that. Hopefully it comes back.
I know. I don't know what happened. This is never for everybody watching live. There's a weird, like, this is a blank box. He's still here, but I can't hear him.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh God. Keep saying the fox got him. The fox got in the house. He's back.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
I don't know what the hell happened. I got a phone call and I couldn't hear you. But I was saying that.
I'm gonna bring that one back up.
Yeah, Keith Flagnick said the fox. He was afraid the fox got you from the.
No, I think the only one time I really talked shit was when Vladimir Guerrero swung 3-0 on me in a 10-0 game in the last inning, and he thought he had a home run. He stood at the home plate and watched it. And I came off the mound and was screaming at him. I didn't really care that he swung 3-0, but it pissed me off that he just sat there and watched it. And our center fielder caught it at the wall, Jay Payton. And I was telling him, I said, you motherfucker, next time I face you, I'm drilling your ass. Next day, first batter, first pitch, square in the back. Yeah. And he started yelling. I said, dude, let's go. Come out here and fight or get your ass to first base. You got two choices. Let's go.
It's funny about you because, I know last time we talked about it, all the things you became known for early in your career, you kind of stopped earlier on, the licorice and the brushing your teeth and all that stuff. And you just focused more on pitching. But, you had all these quirks and these idiosyncrasies about you, especially earlier in your career. But yeah, you strike me as a guy who, wasn't a showboat, wasn't a smack talker, but if push came to shove, you'd be like, all right, man, I'm 60 feet away. Come get it.
Let's game on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm laid back to a fault, but you don't want to piss me off.
Yeah.
Because and I won't quit. Somebody may die. Yeah.
Keith Blacknick has been super active in the comments. He said, I'm still mad that the 2020 QBC got canceled. Turk was supposed to be one of the guests. We have to try to bring him in. So I don't know if you remember that, Turk, but the QBC is a great event that we're a part of every year, the Queens Baseball Convention. So I guess you were supposed to be there in 2020 and it never happened. So might have to rectify that.
What is it?
It's the Queens Baseball Convention. It's kind of like the Mets don't do a fan fest, so it's an outside organization. It's kind of like a de facto fan fest, and I've been hosting it the last couple of years. Last year there was R.A. Dickey, Bartolo Colon, Hojo, and I guess in 2020 you were supposed to be a guest. I don't know, but that's
yeah.
Let's do it again. Let's go.
Yeah.
Turk's like, sure, I don't remember it, but I think I'll do it. Sure, whatever. Okay, last thing I want to ask you. I think this is a good one. And then we'll let you go because you gave us an hour of your time. Joe K saying, what is your opinion on people saying that average doesn't matter and a walk is as good as a single? So you said earlier, batting averages, average major leaguer is like 240 right now. It's down in the dumps. And a lot of guys are worse than that. As a pitcher, you don't want to give up the walk either, right?
No,
I mean, you'd probably rather give up the hit.
Right. So, you're going to beat me. I want you to beat me, not beat myself.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's like I talked about in fantasy camp. We walked the 3 worst hitters on the team, and you get more pissed at yourself when you walk a guy because, especially if you think and know you can get him out, you're doing him a favor by walking him. But that's part of the game, And I was a guy that was so competitive that Al Leiter came up to me one day. Go, dude, why don't you pitch around that guy and walk him? You got first base open. I go, dude, I don't walk anybody unless they tell me to. I'm trying to get him out.
Yeah.
But you play the game smarter, not harder. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's man. We gotta try to get you and Glendon Rush on at the same time.
At the same time, that'd be great.
You guys would be probably your stomachs would hurt.
I didn't realize that he came to visit you. That was like he talks so glowingly about you. We've had him.
He does every time we have him on.
You
Yeah,
know, he's always like, "Man, Turk is the best. He's the best teammate. All this stuff." But
Yeah.
like, he hasn't mentioned that he was out there to see you this summer. So that's fantastic. We got to try to get you guys on together if you'll do it, because
That'd
that's
be an awesome
Absolutely. You kidding me?
Yeah,
I call,
that'd
he
be
likes to be
great.
called Glenn.
Glenn, really.
No.
He never.
no, no. Next time he comes on, how's it going, Glenn?
I say, hey, good morning, Glenn. Hi, Stevie.
I'm gonna do that next time. Next time we have
Next
him
time
on.
he comes on,
We got Glenn.
Oh.
We got Glenn with us.
we got Glenn coming on.
Turk, thank you so much for doing it. Ibby, do you have any last question for Turk before we let him go?
Nothing really. I mean, as always, a fantastic time having you on, the laughs and everything. And just, I love when we have former players on, because just getting the side that we never really get. Look, we love all of our guests when we have former players on, just to get the side of the sport that we love so much and hearing the stories and things of that nature. It's always fantastic. And the fact that you still have that fire, you still have that, you know, that energy in you, and you bring it when you speak with us. It's so much fun. And I thank you so much for coming on with us, man.
I enjoy it, and you know, I like the black hat too. Those are my favorites. Black uniform too. But I enjoy doing these things now because it kind of lets me have the fans see me as who I am. Because most people that meet me, like Jerry Seinfeld, one night I'm hanging out with him in a suite, and we talked for the whole game. And afterwards, he goes, "I'm so glad I got to know you. You're nothing like I thought."
Yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm this wild, crazy partying guy.
This big surly guy. Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never even tried a sip of alcohol before. They're like, bullshit. And I go, seriously. And then after they meet me for a while, and they're going, I couldn't imagine if you did drink. It's probably a good thing you don't. And I just love life, and I love to play baseball.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, honestly, in all seriousness, like, it shows. It comes through when you talk about it. And, you know, we appreciate you coming on and talking with us and talking to some of our viewers and listeners and all that stuff. It's always great to have you on. Is there anything that you have going on, or anything, like any update with your son, or anything you want to talk about, you want to mention before we let you go? We didn't even, you know.
Not really.
All right, perfect.
Pretty low key. Let's go Mets, right?
Yeah.
There we go. Always.
Listen,
always.
You never know. Roving pitching instructor, minor league roving.
We're gonna float that
instructor or bullpen. I would do bullpen coach too in the big leagues.
Would you come back and coach full time and be a bullpen coach for the Mets?
Absolutely. You kidding me? Absolutely. The only reason I didn't get into coaching is because I got divorced and I would have to leave my kids.
Right.
The only reason I retired was to raise my kids.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, you said that last time.
You said that last
now
time.
That I remember that. Yeah. So listen, we don't have that kind of pull, but maybe some people do.
Go.
We can start to run it up the poll. We talk to some people. We got to get Turk.
Know somebody who knows somebody.
Exactly. We got to get Turk Wendell back with the Mets. That's what we got to do. We got to get Turk Wendell back.
Yeah.
Turk, thank you so much for doing
the
show.
Thank you so much,
Turk. Be good. Appreciate you having me again.
Absolutely. We'll have you on anytime. We'll work on getting Turk Wendell and Glenn together on
Glenn
the
Rush
show.
on. We got Glenn Rush back on.
Let the two of them talk, and me and Ibby will just back off.
We'll just hang out.
Right on.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez, Till Mets Do Us Part. You know where to find us every Wednesday, 5:30 Eastern or thereabouts live. If not, you can watch us afterward on our YouTube channel, or you can listen starting tomorrow, wherever it is you get your podcast. Of course, our guest this week, the incomparable Turk Wendell. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time. Oh, our guest next week, Will Salmon from The Athletic, beat reporter for the Mets. He's going to be talking to us about all the crazy stuff going on with the Mets. So make sure to join us next week as well. We'll see you then. Peace.
Peace out.